Morning today from Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying that the Muslim Brotherhood could take power in Egypt, whether we're giving them money or not. That's on the heels of Secretary of State Hillary Clinton cautiously welcoming dialogue between the Egyptian government and that Islamic group. Reaction now from Dore Gold. Mr. Gold, of course, former Israeli ambassador to the United States. He joins us from Jerusalem. Ambassador, very good to have you. What do you make of that now this Muslim group is at least in the discussions and has a seat at the table?
Well, I think a lot of people underestimate the Muslim Brotherhood. I mean, it sounds like it's a fraternity in Vermont or something. It isn't. The Muslim Brotherhood is the wellspring of most of the radical Islamic terrorism that we've been facing today, from Hamas to al-Qaeda. Two of Osama bin Laden's principal teachers, Mohammed Qutb and Abdullah Azzam, came out of the Muslim Brotherhood. Ayman al-Zawahiri, his deputy, comes from the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood. Therefore, you're dealing with an organization that has been committed to violence. And if you look at the statements of its leaders, they still are committed to violence and to the use of force against American troops in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Bottom line, though, whatever emerges post-Mubarak, isn't it fair to say that the government there will be less friendly to your country, less friendly to the United States? It'll be just less friendly, period.
Well, that could very well be. I mean, even, the former head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, who's sometimes extolled lately, Mohammed al-Baradeh, was saying some statements on Meet the Press last Sunday, indicating a kind of equivocation with respect to the future of the peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. So it's very possible that we'll face a more difficult situation. But I just want to emphasize one thing. There are those who say the Muslim Brotherhood is a problem for Israel. It's not just a problem for Israel. If you look at the literature, if you look at the ideology, if you look at the website of the Muslim Brotherhood, they talk about creating a new caliphate. They talk about spreading into Europe. It's a problem for Israel, but it's a problem for the West as well.
Do you believe, Ambassador, the Muslim Brotherhood is trying to have a kinder, gentler face, and that there was even talk that it would recognize your country's right to exist as a chit to be bartered at a table, and that the world will buy that, and that, in fact, maybe our country and Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State would accept that? What do you make of that?
Well, I don't want to comment on the Obama administration, but I will say this. There has been a very assertive school of thought in the U.S. and in Britain saying that the Muslim Brotherhood is more moderate. It's less committed to violence than it was before. And that simply isn't true. You know, Foreign Affairs magazine, that's an old weather vane of the U.S. foreign policy establishment, carried an article called The Moderate Muslim Brotherhood back in 2007. It isn't. Again, read what the Muslim Brotherhood says. Read what the supreme leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, Mohammed Badi, said just recently at the end of 2010. He says jihad is the only way to reform the Islamic world, to build the Islamic world, to build identity. If those are their attitudes, this is not a group that you can do business with. This is a group that could possibly try and deceive you.
But a lot of the top higher-ups of the Muslim Brotherhood have said that before you had a country, a lot of rebel Israelis at the time were considered guerrillas and terrorists in their own right. And then they got their country, then they got their rights, and now, of course, all is very different. That the Muslim Brotherhood is the mirror version of that just many decades later. What do you say to that?
Well, that's just trying to say the technique of guerrilla warfare is common to many organizations in the third world. That's a meaningless statement. What is meaningful is to see what is their ideology. I mean, someone like Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi, the spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, who's based in Qatar and appears on Al Jazeera all the time, he talks about, we will reconquer Rome, we will retake Europe. I mean, that's the kind of language and ideology coming out of the Muslim Brotherhood. That can't be compared to the ideology.
So real quickly then, Ambassador, what is your country, I'm sorry, so we have this delay and I apologize. What is your country's position then, should the Muslim Brotherhood take root and maybe even take over Egypt? Well,
we just had a war with Hamas, who fires rockets at us. The Hamas is the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. Ismail Haniyeh, the head of the Hamas in Gaza, has sworn allegiance to the Muslim Brotherhood. That is not a good indicator of somebody we can do business with. That is somebody who is for continued conflict and war, not peace. That's why you have to be very wary of the Muslim Brotherhood and not be deceived by false, moderate rhetoric.
Ambassador, thank you very much. Good seeing you again.
My pleasure.
President